What if I told you that Kendrick Lamar didn't have to drop a single diss record, didn't have to say a single word, and still managed to completely embarrass one of his loudest critics? Because that's exactly what just happened. Over the past few days, the game has been doing interviews that feel less like promotion and more like a public meltdown. And buried inside those rants is something way deeper than rap beef. This isn't just about Kendrick Lamar anymore. This is about rejection, jealousy, legacy, and a West Coast that has clearly moved on without him. So the real question is this: did Kendrick Lamar just prove, without responding at all, that he is untouchable? Stay with me, because once you see how all of this connects, you can't unsee it. Before we go further, support me by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. It helps a lot. Let's start with what set all of this off. The game recently sat down for another interview, and instead of focusing on music, growth, or anything positive, the conversation kept circling back to Kendrick Lamar. Over and over again, and not in a calm, reflective way, but in a rambling, emotional, almost frantic way. He talked about how he wanted to sign Kendrick early on. He talked about how Kendrick's camp allegedly reacted to him. He talked about why he didn't show up to Kendrick's pop-out event. But here's the thing, none of it sounded clear. None of it sounded confident. It sounded defensive. At multiple points, he was interrupting the interviewer, talking over himself, contradicting earlier statements. It felt less like someone explaining their side, and more like someone trying to convince themselves they still matter. And if you've been watching hip-hop long enough, you know that energy. That's not hunger. That's bitterness. What made this moment so uncomfortable to watch was how emotional it became. You could hear the frustration in his voice. You could see the agitation in his body language. You could feel that something deeper was eating at him. This wasn't playful competition. This wasn't lyrical sparring. This was personal. The way he spoke about Kendrick wasn't the way a peer talks about another peer. It was the way someone talks about a reminder of what they didn't become. And that's where the narrative starts to shift. Because at this point, it's not Kendrick versus the game. It's Kendrick's existence versus the game's unresolved resentment. And the more Kendrick wins without engaging, the worse it seems to get. One of the strangest parts of the interview was when the game tried to redirect the conversation away from Kendrick himself. Instead of addressing Kendrick directly, he made dismissive comments about Kendrick's people, his security, his camp, his circle. And if you followed the game's history, you've seen this pattern before. When he can't challenge the artist, he tries to belittle the environment around them. But here's why that didn't land this time. Nobody was buying it. It came across less like confidence and more like deflection. Because deep down, everyone watching knew the real issue wasn't Kendrick's people. It was Kendrick's position. And that position has become impossible to ignore. Now let's talk about the pop-out. When Kendrick Lamar hosted one of the most unifying moments in recent West Coast hip-hop history, it wasn't just a concert. It was a statement. Artists across generations came together. The city showed up. The culture showed up. And noticeably, the game did not. When asked why he wasn't there, his explanation felt thin. Even the interviewer pushed back, pointing out how important that moment was, not just for Kendrick, but for Los Angeles as a whole. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't about scheduling. This wasn't about coincidence. This was about exclusion. If the pop-out bruised his ego, the TD Christmas concert completely shattered it. Because just days before that interview, something happened that the game could not ignore. Top Dog Entertainment hosted a holiday event that felt more like a celebration of West Coast lineage than just another show. Kendrick Lamar was there. TD was there. The culture was there. And then the legends stepped on stage. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, all sharing the same space. All standing next to Kendrick Lamar. That image alone told a story no diss track ever could. Think about what that moment symbolized. From Dr. Dre, the architect of modern West Coast rap, to Snoop Dogg, the global ambassador, to Kendrick Lamar, the present and future, all aligned, all unified, all moving with the same purpose. This wasn't nostalgia. This wasn't marketing. This was legacy being passed forward in real time. And the absence of one name made the message even louder. The game wasn't missing by accident. He was missing because he no longer represents what that moment stood for. When Kendrick finally took the stage, the energy shifted completely. This wasn't a superstar checking a box. This was a hometown leader in his natural environment. He performed with joy. He laughed with absol. He brought out SZA and shared moments that felt genuine, not forced. You could tell this wasn't performance. This was belonging. And that's the difference. Kendrick doesn't chase validation from the culture. The culture moves with him. Here's where the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. On one side, you have Kendrick Lamar, surrounded by peers, legends, protégés, and community. Even when there are rumored differences, the respect is so deep that it never spills into chaos. On the other side, you have the game, doing press runs, calling himself the villain, leaning into controversy because attention is the only currency left. One side builds, the other lashes out. And hip-hop has always told us which path lasts longer. Let's address the elephant in the room. A lot of this resentment seems to trace back to one decision: Dr. Dre choosing Kendrick Lamar. Over time, Dre distanced himself from the game and invested deeply in Kendrick. Not just musically, but philosophically. And when you look at where both artists ended up, it's hard not to wonder if Dre saw something early on. Not just talent, but discipline. Not just hunger, but purpose. And that difference might explain everything we're seeing now. This is the part that frustrates people like the game the most. Kendrick doesn't respond with interviews. He doesn't argue online. He doesn't trade insults. He responds by existing exactly as he is, by being embraced in his city, by showing up for his community, by standing next to legends who trust him with the culture's future. That silence isn't weakness, it's dominance. So now the question becomes, where does this go next? Will the game drop a diss track? Will he escalate and pull Dr. Dre into it? Or will this spiral continue as Kendrick keeps winning without engaging? Because one thing is clear, the West Coast has chosen its leader. And if you're going to come for Kendrick Lamar, you better bring something that actually forces a response. Because right now, just being Kendrick Lamar is more than enough to dismantle every narrative thrown at him. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the game is headed for a full public crash out? Do you believe a Kendrick diss is coming? Or has Kendrick already won without saying a word? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't.